Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and today we're going to take a look at Romania's World War II Mauser pattern sniper rifles. There are two versions. They were both built on Romanian vz24 Czech-made Mauser rifles. That's what the Romanian military was using in World War II. And the initial request for scoped rifles came from Marshal Antonescu specifically on January 22nd, 1942. He basically said, hey, yeah, we need to get some scoped rifles and create a marksman's corps. So there was a major optics manufacturing facility, R&D and manufacturing facility in Romania. It was called IOR, which still exists today. The name translates essentially into like Romanian Optical Enterprise. And there was one particular captain engineer there by the name of Șeptilici who set about fulfilling this request and designed two different scopes for the military to consider. He came up with a small one and a big one. The small one was 4¼ power, the big one was 6 power, and they were both designed using lenses and assemblies that IOR already had in stock, and with a design that was very reminiscent, well, specifically inspired by the Soviet PEM scopes. That was a scope that the Romanians had access to, and it was a good scope at the time. So you put this all together, and in really remarkably short order, Șeptilici has these two prototypes ready for military assessment. And on March 5th, 1942, he presents both of them to the Army, or to the government, for consideration. They take about a month to consider the options, and on April 13th, 1942, they send back an order for 2,000 of the smaller scopes, the 4¼ power scopes, back to IOR for manufacture. At that point, IOR has a bit of work to do because all they had is a single prototype of the model that the Army now wants. So they had to do some more serious testing, make sure that all of the all the design elements were suitable for the rigors of military field use, figure out a production line, set up tooling, all that sort of thing. That takes them a couple months, and in June of 1942, the scopes officially go into production. IOR would manufacture the scopes, and then the main Romanian Army arsenal was responsible for doing all the rest of the work to turn these scopes into scoped rifles. So the Army arsenal manufactured rings, mounts, bases, pulled rifles out of inventory or storage, adapted, fitted bases and everything onto them, and assembled these into complete and ultimately zeroed sniper rifles that they then sent off to the Army to actually use. Production started fairly slow. We know from one particular report that by May of 1944, only 1,810 of these rifles had actually been delivered to the Army. But it probably wasn't much longer after that before they finished the initial order of 2,000. That was then followed by a second order for 7,000. And the reason I bring this up before we take a close look at anything is because the second order was for a significantly different style of scope mount. The scopes were the same, the rifles were the same, the mounts were different in order to strengthen them. So let's go ahead and now take a close look at both versions of Romanian sniper rifles. This is the first pattern of Romanian scope mount. It's two just very simple independent mounting blocks that are locked into bases that are machined and welded into the upper part of the rifle receiver. This one has some electro pencil on it. It's not matching. But the first batch of 2,000 snipers, the ones with this sort of split mount, were built on depot storage rifles. So they're all vz24s, as you can see right there. The R here indicates a Romanian contract gun, and then the X is series and its serial number. The bolt handles were bent at the Army arsenal. That's to accommodate the scopes, of course. We have an IOR mark right there on the top of the scope. We have a serial number. On this side, this is SR 1364. And then on the other side, the magnification and specs of the scope is 4.5 by 28 millimeter. It's quite easy to remove. You just take the lever here, flip it all the way forward, and then this lifts up out of its front mount and its back mount. I mentioned that this was inspired by the Soviet PEM. Here's a PEM for comparison. You can see the mechanical block in the middle is very, very similar. The IOR scope does not have adjustable windage. It just has a bullet drop compensator, which runs from 0 all the way around to 1,000 meters. The PEM does have both windage and elevation adjustment, but you can see it's not a direct copy, but it is definitely an inspired by sort of thing. The second group of scopes, what we can call like the bracket mounts here, have a solid bracket connecting both the front and the rear mounts, so it makes it a little more solid. They've also made the scope bases more solid. These are now removed by unscrewing this, and then we have a heavy taper mount. There we go. So you can see that right there. One side is heavily tapered. This side is just a plain dovetail. Scope slides on, and then that thumb screw locks it down in that notch. These are the exact same scopes. So we have the same 4.5 by 28 millimeter marking, the same IOR marking. The serial number on this one is actually lower. I don't know if this was a scope that was replaced in a new mount at some point, or if there's something going on with the scope serial numbers that I'm not familiar with. But this is scope 1304, and this one is actually fully matching. So you can see the rings here are marked 04, 04, 04 on the bottom single piece bracket back there. That matches the 04 on the scope. And then we have the rifle's serial number, 57042 right there. And there we have it, 57042. One of the other interesting things about this particular rifle is that this is actually a Czech military-proofed vz24. Romania, in addition to purchasing new contracts of rifles from CZ, also actually acquired a not insignificant number of former Czech military vz24s, and this is one of them. The batch of second pattern scope mount snipers were taken from re-arsenaled rifles, which could, well, and clearly did, include some ones that originally came out of the Czech military. Beyond that turned down bolt handle and, of course, the scope mounting blocks, there really is no difference between these rifles and any other standard Romanian vz24. We've got the double sling swivels, serial number in the back of the stock there. Lastly, I can also show you the scope cases for these rifles. We actually have a remarkable variety of them here, but they all follow the same basic pattern. It's a big old square leather box, belt loop. It's got a closure strap and a carry strap. And inside you will find two things, which are both missing from this one. I'll show you that in a moment. There's a yellow lens cap that went up here, and that was for giving you a little bit of, well, you'd clip it on when you were using the rifle, probably in a snowy environment. And then you have a pair of adjustment tools there. So this is one example. We have a canvas example here, probably post-war, but not entirely sure. Here we go. Here's another leather one. You can see just minor differences like the number of rivets and the exact style of everything. I suspect IOR was just using a variety of small leatherworking shops to provide scope cases, and so they all come out a little bit different. Here is, it's got a little bit of verdigris on it, but here's the shaded cover. Some of these are shaded gray, some of them are a little more yellow, but that gets stored up in the top right there. And then we have a pair of adjustment tools right there. And every one of these scope cases is set up for both of those. The one that is slightly different from the others is this guy, which fits all of the same basic patterns, except that it is a bit narrower. The suspicion here is that this would be for the early pattern scopes, which are narrower, as opposed to the late pattern scopes, which have that big locking screw coming off the side, which is going to be hard pressed to fit inside that box. So this one is also marked with a serial number on top, and it has someone's manufacturing mark on the closure strap right there. And, of course, setup for the lens cap and the scope tools inside. We don't know exactly when the second order of scopes was completed. By the end of World War II, it was not done. Probably over halfway done, probably something like 5,000 from the estimates from the Romanian researchers that I spoke with about this. The assembly continued after World War II, and these rifles actually continued in Romanian service for quite some time. They would remain as the Army's standard sniper rifles until the 1970s, when the Romanian PSL rifle was developed and began to be issued. At that point, rifles moved from the Army to the Patriotic Guards, which is sort of the Romanian Homeland Territorial Defense Organization. They continued to use them until the end of communism in Romania in 1989. At some point, small numbers of them were surplused out, but they've never really shown up anywhere in particularly large numbers. So it was very cool to get a chance to take a look at both patterns here, both really good examples of these rifles. I would like to give particularly a big thanks to Beta Perry of the Romanian National Firearms Collectors Association for being a tremendous help in getting the information for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.